SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
The industry's alarm clocks will be ringing loudly on the morning of Thursday, 6th of March, with Europe's listed giants Entain, Française des Jeux and Banijay Group all set to publish their full year 2024 results. In London, Entain faces a probe of its strategy and leadership as investors seek answers as to why the FTSE 100 gambling group continues to stumble in light of Gavin Isaacs' resignation as CEO. Meanwhile, in Paris, FDJ will showcase its first combined accounts with Kindred Groul plc. How will markets and analysts react to the results of a company seeking to become European gambling's biggest PLC? And Thursday ends in Amsterdam with Banijay Group, Europe's biggest entertainment conglomerate, providing the results of Betclic, its fastest growing venture, a figure which will be closely monitored by analysts and industry activists. I'm Martyn Elliott, and welcome to today's iGaming Daily, brought to you in partnership with Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. And I'm very pleased to be joined by SBC's content director, Ted Menmuir, for today's show. Hi, Ted. How are you?
Good, Martin. Ready to tangle on our Euro PLC results. What's going to be an interesting week for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday morning can be your busiest day of the year, isn't it?
So why they pay you the big bucks, guys?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to be there on all sorts of medication, getting up to do my job. You know.
Yeah.
The Adderall will be kicking in, and yeah.
Alarm clock set for 6 a.m. no doubt. So let's get into it then, because there's a lot to discuss here. I mean, I am really looking forward to both Entain's results and the investor call afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be box office, right? There's an awful lot for them to discuss.
Certainly. I mean, I think this could be kind of a pay for TV investor call, because there's just so much to probe with in Entain, especially with what's happened over the last month or so, and especially how kind of these incidents and troubles are kind of reshaping the strategy in what's a fundamental year for Entain to actually provide to investors its kind of long-term view of how it fixes its issues, but also the underlying matters with regards to BetMGM and its strategy in Europe and the UK, and how much, how has it come back from, because I think, Entain is fundamentally still scarred by a really, really poor 2023, in which it booked £900 million losses. And I think it hasn't kind of answered where it is at the moment or where it plans to be, regardless of what's happened in its leadership ranks.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. And then, because you look, some of the individual business units actually look like they've been performing quite well in 2024, but it's the narrative going on around the company is sort of disguising that. And also, we have some investors who are quite keen to see some breakup. Some investors who've been really critical of the M&A strategy of the last couple of years. What do you think those sort of institutional investors would want to hear tomorrow, on Thursday rather, to sort of calm their nerves about their investment?
I think, look, you pointed out there are risks at the investor level at Entain, that's clear. And it depends. I think some investors just simply view Entain as that narrative of what are they going to do with BetMGM and what's the value of that venture. I think there's others who kind of take the group at a much bigger level and see kind of its individual assets, not just in North America, but in Europe and especially Eastern Europe, and what is the overall valuation. Again, it seems to me that Entain are a company that can take kind of 2 steps forward, but then just stumble and go 10 steps back. And actually, you're right. They had a positive Q3. They showed growth. They returned to growth in the UK. They accelerated their positions out in Eastern European markets, and they've got a good kind of footholding in Australia to take market share. So those are positive narratives, but they all got drowned out by the CEO's resignation and also kind of continued headwinds in North America. Now, when I point to kind of BetMGM and that joint venture, it's still stuck in that kind of very, very fragile third place out in the States, where I think the analysts kind of just look at the joint BetMGM and think, well, that's the position where you don't want to be, where you can get picked apart by either the new players or lose market share to kind of two giants in front of you, DraftKings and FanDuel. I don't know what they're going to say to the investors to kind of appease concerns.
Yeah, I mean, the BetMGM thing is a bit of a mystery, isn't it, for Entain, because perhaps the bigger decisions on that are going to come from MGM Resorts, because they've bought, obviously, Leo Vegas and Tipico, I think. So they now have the technology to go it alone on, as they have done with that BetMGM brand in a number of other markets now as well. So whether that is still the cash cow that investors in Entain hope it is I think open to a bit of debate now.
I don't even think that's open to debate.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think, look, if we were reflective of Entain over a year period, then yes, that is still the issue. But if we reflect back to how Entain has come here, and we reflect that kind of in 2019, 2020, DraftKings put in a buy. I don't know how serious it was, but they did. There was rumors of $11 billion acquisition of the whole company, and Entain at the time and its chairman Barry Gibson thought that was an undervalued price. But the market conditions have changed so much in the States, and I think that you're right that the fundamental play here with the acquisition rests on MGM Resorts and when will they pull the trigger. However, are we now going to go into another year of waiting for that kind of narrative to develop? And maybe it's time to kind of a new CEO for Entain to really, push the envelope there and just say, look, it's now or never on the deal. It's the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, I'm sure we both remember that DraftKings offer quite well, because we were at a conference organised by SBC at which the keynote speaker that very day was the CEO of Entain, wasn't it? Jette Nygaard-Andersen at the point. And I seem to remember there was over breakfast at the hotel, there was some worry that she wasn't going to turn up in light of the news, but she did. In fairness to her, I don't think she took any questions on it, but she did turn up. One final point on Entain then. Do you think we'll get any clarity on why Gavin Isaacs left and whether they have a succession plan in place yet? Be Stella David, who's the sort of interim CEO now, who was previously the chairman or chairperson. She's very well regarded in the city, so perhaps the play will just be to leave her in place.
Good question, but I don't think they're going to tell us anything on these leadership succession plans. I do think that Stella David wants to kind of hold that position on an interim basis, and I think that she's quite set on being the chairman. However, I think that Entain cannot afford to spend 8 months searching for a CEO. And I think the fallout of someone with such a kind of figurehead profile as Gavin Isaacs resigning after 5 months, who was kind of viewed as this deal maker to get Entain onto kind of its next platform. The fact that didn't come around, I think it's kind of, that is what's kind of dented the investor trust. I think the next two decisions by the board, CEO replacement and BetMGM, are going to be huge for the company. And I think that's something to kind of tune into on Thursday.
Yeah. Be interesting to see who they eventually end up with as CEO. It has the look of a poisoned chalice about it, that role, after the last couple of years. But at the same time, for somebody who is both very competent and very confident,
exactly,
a great career move for someone, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because people often kind of like reflect this and compare it to like a football or a sports appointment.
Yeah,
and what is it? Is it kind of like taking on the Man United chalice or like? But for me, it's look. There is still. Entain is a company formed of many assets. Some of them are very valuable. Some of them just don't make any sense whatsoever. And I think you need a leader who'll pick that apart and then kind of reform a strategy. I don't see Entain being in the same makeup as it is for the next year or so. I mean, a breakup has to happen at some point. Whether that's a North American trigger or European trigger remains to be seen.
Okay, well, let's move on to somebody who has made a very significant M&A play in recent times, FDJ.
SBC Summit Rio is back from the 25th to the 27th of February. Join us at Rio Centro for Brazil's biggest betting and iGaming event. Get your tickets now at sbcevents.com.
It's a really big day in the history of that company to be announcing its first set of results with Kindred included.
Absolutely. And I think that it's not only a big day for FDJ, but it's a big day for French gambling. And also the acquisition itself and the results that will be presented actually kind of tell the journey and the passage that French gaming has gone through in the past 5 years with the privatization of FDJ being taken away from the state. It had quite a fractious IPO because of COVID in 2020, but it's now kind of its passage to becoming this European giant, not only in gaming, but overall its valuation as a European listed enterprise. So a lot of eyes will be on FDJ's announcement, its enlargement, and where it kind of views its European vision. Because one thing that has to be mentioned is that it's acquiring a Kindred, but a Kindred with kind of multiple liabilities in different markets, and a Kindred that is going through a transition. So again, it's an acquisition of many, many parts and many, many narratives.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think analysts will be looking at here? Because it's an interesting set of first results, because there's also the potential for some parts of Kindred's results to look like they're down, solely because they've had to pull out of some markets as a result of the acquisition. What if you were the lead commentator for I don't know, Barclays or somebody? What would you be looking at in these results?
I think it's how will FDJ kind of pull apart Kindred? Which markets is going to target in? Is he going to weigh up and going to leverage towards? And it's got big decisions here. I mean, even in the home market of Sweden, yes, Kindred is number one, but how much money are they going to invest in that market to kind of strengthen their position against kind of reforms coming in, and especially with a big kind of tax liability coming in that market. The other one, as you know, would probably be Holland. Yes, again, Kindred carries a podium place, but that's going to be carried against a COA Act or a Remote Gambling Act that is going to be revised from the top down. So again, it carries an exposure in that market. Belgium too. Also in the UK, does FDJ view the UK as a market that's going on a regular transition, but how much market share can it gain? And can it also compete against the bigger fish on your Bet365s and your Flutter brands in there? There's a lot of at stake for FDJ to prove or to put forward its online vision, which it never really has had to date. It's been much more of a kind of retail sports betting enterprise and a lottery kind of conglomerate. Sure.
I mean, a lot of the markets it's inheriting by taking over Kindred are actually ones that are quite difficult to make a profit in as well.
Oh yeah,
which makes it an unusual acquisition in some ways.
But then is this kind of a clean slate for Kindred? Kindred's asset to say, look, we're under new ownership now, and it's a very, very different market to when Kindred was Unibet, and it was like the fastest growth brand in European countries. Also, it's what the investors wanted. They wanted, they wanted a European giant that is operating across 100% regulated markets. That is the design and framework that they want. And that comes with the reality that, yes, you have to pay higher taxes, much more on compliance, customer care duties. So what is the value of that when you're creating this big business?
Yeah. And the other thing to watch out for there, which we won't get any clarity for this week, is the legislation to legalise or otherwise iCasino in France, which potentially has some upside for FDJ, but nothing imminent announcement-wise there, I guess.
I'm going to reflect back with my conversations with Jake Pollard, who's on the ground in France and covers that market for SBC, and he's, as he stated, FDJ really want to kind of control the terms of how that regulation is set and how that market will come into play for French stakeholders. Also, there are so many rifts in France between your municipal casinos versus your online sector. It's a long road to launch, but I think FDJ wants kind of favorable commands in how that market is established.
And then just final thing on FDJ, when they bought Kindred, they were pretty clear that they wanted to become Europe's biggest gambling company, or certainly listed company. Are they on track to do that, do you think?
I think in terms of listed, yes. But however, I think if you take kind of the online segment and also that take back audiences to what we discussed back at the start of the year, it's how kind of at the top echelon of gaming, between listed and private companies, I think we kind of the segments, the tables are moving. And I think now that if you want to be in the top range of online betting, it's not just the Bet365s you're going to go up against. I think it's your K's and groups, your super bets coming in with their new funding. So let's judge them on that in 9 months' time.
Okay. I always like an answer which...
Open-ended.
Yeah, open-ended. I was just going to say, yeah. It's one which, it's a tactic I often use when asked to get the direct questions. Say, well, let's reevaluate in a few months' time. Anyway, let's move on to Banijay Group, who, as you know, Ted, are the company behind my favourite crime-fighting vicar drama, Grantchester on ITV. So, I was surprised as well when I looked at their website today to discover that. So, it's a wholly implausible drama in which the parish priest at a small church in Cambridgeshire in the 1950s, 3 consecutive vicars there have all been adept at crime fighting. So, who'd have thought? Who'd have thought that could happen? So I'm hoping that Banijay Group are a bit more realistic when it comes to their management of Betclic anyway. So, and their results will be a bit more credible. But for those listeners who are not familiar with this giant media company, can you just give us a little bit of background about Banijay and their involvement in gambling? So
Banijay was formed out of, it used to operate as a, I think, French and Dutch entertainment group that had a lot of kind of IPs across European TV and European cinema, and especially on the production front. And in 2020, they merged under the brand of FL Entertainment and quickly IPO'd on the Amsterdam Euronext. Now, one of its assets at the time was, especially in the French wing, was Betclic. And Betclic also carried an investment, a kind of majority ownership of a subsidiary, Bet at Home for Germany, but it keeps that on a separate account. And what we've seen is that, the IPO of Banijay, XFL Entertainment, was Europe's biggest in 2020. And when when they present their accounts day in, day out, I mean, they put out a small section on Betclic. It's a brand that, has had kind of consecutive years of growth. However, it does kind of stick out as a sore thumb compared to its, production and entertainment wings, which are much bigger. But it still remains their fastest growing asset, and it's speculation mounts whether Banijay will increase its investment in gaming or step away and sell the asset at a premium.
Yeah, so just looking at the figures here, Banijay Gaming is about 20% of revenue for the bigger group. A much bigger share is in the entertainment stuff, the media stuff. So you've raised the point already that, are they going to stick with it? What sort of signals will investors and market commentators be looking for in these results to try and get a bit of a steer on this?
I think with any French asset this year, it's taxes. And, actually something we didn't mention about FDJ was their pre-market statement in which they said that they carried a £90 million exposure for the next 2 years to French gaming taxes. And, Betclic, being France's biggest online bookmaker, will carry that exposure too. I think if you are on the Banijay board, one of the things you got to predict is, does this put the brakes on Betclic and its kind of fast growth status in your portfolio? And is this now kind of the right time to just say, well, look, sports betting and gaming is a market of higher M&A activity. Anything with growth, especially in regulated markets, will carry a premium. Is it now time to put $1 billion or £2 billion valuation on Betclic and get out that market and concentrate on our core competencies of entertainment production and media? Sure.
I mean, there have been some hints previously, haven't there, that they might look to sell the board. Are there obvious buyers out there, though? Because this would be a really substantial investment for somebody, although you would be buying a very healthy market share in potentially a very big market.
I think you have to go back to another rumour mill. It's like, surprise, surprise. Could it be Flutter? Well, yeah, okay. We've seen Superbet. They're loaded up with, I think, 1.4 billion from Blackstone. It could be Blackstone taking it as a private as a private asset. So there will be many scouts for Betclic if Banijay want to move on that. It's just, I don't think there's ever been kind of a clear statement that, we don't think Betclic fits in our portfolio or we're open to discussions. It's been a good investment for them. I think they can sit on it for the time being. But again, this year they will see a real exposure coming in on French taxes. And I think that will weigh up on the decision.
Sure. Okay. Well, another one to keep an eye on then, in that case. Yeah. I think that's all for today. So thanks for joining me, Ted. Interesting discussion, and good luck on Thursday. I'm sure you're
setting my alarm.
Yeah, poring over those balance sheets and reports and so on. I know you'll do a great job as always. So you'll be able to read all the coverage about that on SBC News in particular, and also on we'll have some on iGaming Expert, I'm sure, as well. So thanks for listening today, and join us again tomorrow for another edition of iGaming Daily.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network, or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.